Most people don't need more financial products. What they actually need is clarity on exactly what level of the wealth game they're in, so you know exactly what are the next best steps to take you from where you're currently at towards that ideal life that you want to live. I'm Kyle, and I help people build financial systems and frameworks around the world of banking, tough money, and generational wealth. And in this video, I'm going to break down what we call our tough money levels. How do you identify and use things like your income, net worth, cash reserves, to articulate exactly where you're at in the wealth game, and most importantly, what are the next best steps to get from point A to point B in the least amount of time with less risk. So let's jump right into this. You've seen this framework before. We call this our path of money. As money flows into your life, there's 4 things that we can do with it. We can spend it, donate it, hold it, and invest it. And if the sequence of our money is not properly organized, we're going to feel financial pressure in our life. And so we're looking at an American family that makes $150,000 per year. They have an $840,000 net worth over there on the center right of the screen. And their net worth is comprised of 2 elements. Your liquidity, which is your cash reserves, that's any liquid safe asset. And then you have investment equity, which is the 790. That would be an asset like retirement accounts, real estate, anything that's not necessarily liquid or safe. We want to separate those 2 categories, and when you combine your liquidity and your investment equity, you get your net worth. Now, these are all clues to exactly what you should be doing in the money game to move forward faster with less risk and in less time. So if we have someone, and here's their financial snapshot, these are all clues. Now, you'll probably agree with me that there are different levels to the wealth game. And one of the most important ways to measure what your financial wealth scorecard is your net worth. And so if we have someone that's under $100,000 of net worth, that would be a certain rating. We have the next level I would go to is like 100,000 to $1 million. And whether you're at 150 or 850, anywhere in that range, there's going to be very specific things you want to focus on. Now, when you start getting into the $1 million to $10 million range, the strategy is going to change completely. And anything over 10 million, I think it's an entirely different type of financial focus. And where I think people get caught up is they look at people that have a $10 million net worth or more. Maybe that's $100 million, maybe it's more, could be less. And if you're in like the 850 range of net worth, one of the worst things you can do is try to mimic the people that have a $10 or $15 million net worth. You're going to be skipping steps, and you're going to be spinning your wheels in the financial game. And this is why you're going to start getting burnt out and feeling frustration, is because you're playing a little bit out of your league. And so we want to sequence this into the proper levels. Now, there are levels to the wealth game. So if we take your current net worth and we put it on a compounded curve line, and we say, you know, anything 100,000 or less, we call it level 1. Anything 100,000 to $1 million, that's level 2. Anything from $1 million to 10 million is level 3, and anything over 10 million we call level 4. And understanding your income, your net worth, and your liquidity are going to be really big clues. So if this family that we're looking at, which is a top 10% income earning family, they make $150,000 a year, very high income, great strong income, their current net worth is $840,000. That puts them in a level 2 wealth game. Now, if they come to us and they say, hey, Kyle, I want to get to a target net worth of $3 million, and I want to do that in the next 7 years, because at that level of net worth, I would have a certain amount of passive income as well, and that would allow us to fund the ideal life. And knowing their liquidity, which is $50,000 in this case, see, their liquidity is down there in a level 1. They're currently in a level 2 on the upper ends of it, and they want to go to level 3. Well, I can tell you it's going to be extremely difficult and very risky for this family to go to a $3 million net worth if their liquidity stays at $50,000. $50,000 is not enough of a financial buffer to protect yourself and set yourself up for opportunity to go to that level of net worth. And so when you think about balancing your portfolio, there's really 3 main options that are happening here. The one in the center is a very balanced portfolio. I'm not going to say that's ideal. You want to critique the relationship between how much cash assets you're holding and how much investment equity you are lending out or putting out in the world to drive higher rate of returns. And depending on what's going on in your personal life, in the economic environment, these will change. So a lot of families that I work with have a lot of investment equity, and very, very little cash reserves. And they always feel like, hey, on paper, I'm doing really well, but I don't really feel like I'm living wealthy. And it's because they're one event away from, potentially losing what's taken them 10 years to build because they don't have enough cash reserves. And they might feel like they're always missing opportunity because all their money is tied up in assets that are not necessarily liquid. Now, on the flip, we have families that I work with that are very strong savers, love to hold on to cash, and probably holding on to too much cash to where we're not accelerating enough now, which they also feel financial pressure because we're not chasing down their freedom number. And when you understand your current net worth and your target net worth, the next natural question you're going to ask is, what is my next move? And you're probably feeling like this. If you are saying, what do I even focus on now? Do I start with legacy planning? Do I get into life insurance? Do I start infinite banking? Do I get my estate planning strategy going up? Do we work on capital preservation, long-term care? There's so many things that you could be focused on. And a lot of times this is what people feel like when they hear someone speak about money that's worth 10, 15, $100 million. They go, this is great. I would love to build wealth like that. What do I actually do at my current state? And what we've done here with our Tough Money level framework is we've organized every single one of those items you're going to need depending on what level of the wealth game you're at. And once you sequence it like this and you have the right guide to help you navigate this every 6 months, 12 months, however often you would like to meet, you're going to start getting results much faster with way less risk. And so let's jump in real quick and just what are the most important things that I could be doing if I'm watching this video and I'm in a level 1 net worth, $100,000 or less. Some of the best tough money moves that you can make is number 1, optimize business management and increase your active income. So if you're an employee somewhere or you are starting your own business, the greatest thing you can divert all your time, energy, and resources to is focus on your skill set. This is where a category where I would not be investing yet, because even if you take $10,000 in this category and get a 10% rate of return, that's $1,000 for that year. $1,000 that year is not going to change your life, but what could change your life is spending $10,000 that year going to seminars and masterminds to increase your skill set to be more valuable either to the company you're working for or the company that you own. You could invest $10,000 into a couple masterminds and turn that into $50,000 or $100,000 in skills that you've built and value you can bring to the marketplace. And so that's your greatest source of leverage here is actually your skills, your abilities, and your active income. Double down on this in this level. Next thing is you've got to build the right habits by getting your savings rate. As soon as you start making more money, you've got to start saving at least 10 to 30% of that income. If this habit is done in this stage, you are going to be moving so fast up the wealth framework as you go. Last thing that we would do is definitely make sure you're maximizing the benefits of where you store that wealth. Now, inside our Tough Money workbook, which is a roadmap and a guide and a blueprint to help you accomplish all these things, there's certain sections in here like savings environment. So a lot of people don't have a thoughtful framework around where they should be saving money. So it sits in a checking account. They might have some cash in their safe at home. They might have some precious metals, treasuries, whatever it is. The reason I'm a big proponent and advocate for whole life insurance is because you're going to get a number of benefits inside that liquid safe asset you will not find in any other singular place. It's a really tough environment to start building your foundation on, so that as you now go into level 2, which is a net worth of anywhere from $100,000 to $1 million, this is when we're going to get really intentional with, number 1, eliminating low value spending. So you'll also go through a chapter in our Tough Money workbook that's going to allow you to understand savings. And instead of budgeting, I'm going to encourage you to what's called eliminate low value spending. And we use a few different tools in our frameworks here. One of them is our wealth scorecard that allow you to analyze your insurances, that's home and auto and life insurance, the interest on any debt you might have, the investments you currently have, and the IRS. So most Americans are overpaying when it comes to the insurances they own, the interest on their debt, their investments, and the IRS. So if we can go in there and find efficiencies in these 4 areas, naturally your savings is going to skyrocket. The best part is you're never going to feel an interruption in your lifestyle because you're eliminating low value spending. I don't think anyone's a big fan of overpaying the IRS. So there's certain things we're going to look at quickly to identify that. And it's one of the greatest things you can do in level 2, especially when you start making more money. Now, this is also when you got to get really intentional with your liquidity strategy. I see too many people skip this as they scale up and they get really good at making money, but keeping money and understanding their cash reserves is a completely different skill set. And you're going to need both of those worlds talking to each other if you want to keep growing exponentially. This is also when you're going to start actually investing because you've got the active habits down, you've got the savings habits down, you're building your cash reserves. Now you're tough, your foundation's tough. This is the time to develop a very intentional investing criteria so that you can go out and invest in things you know and understand with less risk and higher rates of return. And this is where you're going to start building your passive income strategy. But your active income is probably still beating your passive income strategy considerably. So we still want a lot of that focus on grow your business or become more valuable to the business you are in. Next is you got to optimize your tax strategy. At this point, because you're making more money, now this is the appropriate time to seek out a good CPA and a tax strategist to make sure that you're understanding what availability you have in the tax game to reduce taxes while increasing profit. So make sure that you're optimizing tax strategies here. Now, when you jump to level 3, and this is actually the hardest level to break out of, not because it's more difficult per se, but because in this stage, 1 million to 10 million in net worth, you have most likely accumulated enough assets to build some good passive income. You have enough assets creating volume of passive income, which is probably going to start surpassing your active income. And in this stage, it gets so comfortable because of your net worth, your income, both active and passive. You're probably driving the car that you want. You're probably living in the home that you want. You can probably travel where you want. You can buy the things at the grocery store, go to the restaurants you want. You can provide the opportunities to your kids that you've always wanted. This is a very comfortable stage to be in. A lot of people don't go past this because it's either doesn't fit their ideal lifestyle or there's not something else driving them to go to 100 million. If you could live the ideal lifestyle, abundance in all areas of life with a $7 million net worth, maybe that is enough for that time frame. So when we get to this strategy, this level of the wealth game, the strategy changes completely. It moves from really a lot of acceleration and like let's work harder to let's minimize risk and let's start protecting what we've built. The goal as you go up the wealth framework with these tough money levels is to also not go backwards. Once you're winning, it becomes easy to keep winning. So your part of your strategy is now is risk mitigation. So you'd want to focus on organizing your estate plan at this time, asset protection. This is when you really want to optimize entity structure so you're not overpaying on taxes and things are protected and organized. You also need to get very intentional with balance sheet allocation. Depending on what economic environment we're in, you might be selling off the bottom 10, 20, 30% of your investment portfolio that's not performing in today's market. You might convert it to a cash position. Ideally, I'd go to whole life insurance, and then I would redeploy the money from there into greater opportunities for the future. And this is kind of the game that you're going to be playing in this stage. Next, we have integrating advanced tax strategies. At this stage, a whole new world of tax strategy is going to open up for you. So you want to make sure that your team is also growing with you at that same time. And lastly, this is when you're really going to start to cultivate a culture of stewardship. Leadership is one of the most important elements at this stage because most likely you're running an organization. You're starting to assemble your wealth team, and leadership and stewardship are going to be massive parts of what you need to study, learn, and implement at this stage. Now, when we jump to level 4, $10 million of net worth or more, the tough money moves that are going to be the most important here are optimizing a family office. This is when you're going to have kind of your wealth team that you've vetted and found over the years, and they're going to be a part of your future. And they're going to help you massively accelerate your passive income because they're going to bring you opportunities. They're going to show you different strategies. And at this time, your passive income is going to be accelerating so fast, it'll far succeed your active income. And this is when you'll see people jump from like 5 million, 10 million in additional net worth in a few short years because you have a team working with you and you're so dialed in. This is also when the primary focus becomes how do you just ensure capital preservation and understand how to be disciplined with your risk management. The only thing that's really going to bring you down in this stage is poor decisions. So this is why you want to bounce ideas off of your leadership team and make sure that risk management and capital preservation is a part of the strategy. At this time, your assets will continue to work for you forever. So the goal here is just don't make any poor decisions and jeopardize what you've built the last 5, 10, or 15 years. This is where I would actually recommend diversification as well. I think a lot of people go to diversification early on in the wealth game just because they're told. What you need in levels 1, 2, and 3 is an insane amount of focus. Don't get distracted chasing shiny objects. Focus on where you have an unfair and unique advantage and bet everything on that. When you get up to the level 4 category, this is when you can start spreading out some of that risk and diversifying because the goal is now shifted from like extreme focus to we need to spread out the risk to maintain and preserve the capital that we are currently managing. And lastly, this is when you're going to have a really defined legacy and significance plan. This is where I would spend a lot more time thinking about how you want to, give as much as you can, earn as much as you can, spend as much as you can, live as much as you can. And this is where I would spend, adequate amount of money and time networking with people to understand how do I be as impactful and significant in the later stages of my life with everything I've built up until that point. And so if we look at this across the board again, a lot of people will hear people speak and immediately think, I need to go develop my family office. I need to preserve capital. I need to diversify. I need to get the ideal balance sheet allocation. But if you're in levels 1 or 2 and you focus on things that are at the top part of level 3 and 4, you're going to just spin your wheels in the money game and you're not going to get enough traction. And so a lot of the families that I've worked with that have $10 million, $50 million of net worth, even $100 million of net worth, a lot of them were good with like their liquidity, their savings environments, and their saving strategy. But I was able to come in there and help them get that from like a 7 or 8 to like a 9 and 10 so that they're really optimizing those things. And if we skip early stage habits and disciplines, it's going to be very difficult for you to bring your net worth up without taking on more risk and sacrificing what you've already built. And so you want to focus on the exact stages that you're in and make sure that you're getting the sequence down so that as you go up the tough money levels, all of that is going to stay intact. So as always, remember, choose truth over trends, education over products, and people over profit.